First time finished today, we have 2 cards left from our spring baby card reading. Purple flowers, or this card here, which is pine. Pinus sylvestris preserve is the key word there. Or we also have the card elderberries, and the word is ritual. Or this is a celeste stone. I'm just trying to remember what it's not. So, if you are drawn to this celeste geo here, or to a spiritual card, this may be a good title for you. Otherwise, the preserving, or one of the first 2 cards that came out. This is the second part of a 2-part video. So the link is down below if you need to find it. It should be in the description box. So let's just kind of jump in. I'm not going to do too much. I'll do a prayer off screen and meditation a little bit here. And I've got a nature cam going on the side here, so you might hear like a little stream running over some rocks and some birds and things calling. So if you're wondering what that is, that's nature cam. I always like search for a live nature cam before I get on here. It just really helps me ground. I would like to be able to read it to my prayers outside. I just don't have that set up yet. Also, every time I go outside for too long, I get hunted by wasps. It's interesting. This is kind of came out the way. I think I put it blue, but maybe that's a little harder to see me back here, but I'm gonna try that for now. Let's see, because I need to get my camera down a little bit. I need to just make my own. I need to make a bunch of them because I need them for all kinds of things. But I don't like to take the ones that I have sitting around because it's already. Thank you for transforming my heart. So there was a father's hemisphere. In case I need my handy dandy notebook, it's here. That's quite cool. I don't have this next to me. Let's see if this is any better.
think that's changing my settings. I think it's just testing. Okay, well, it shows bars, so seems like I'm being. My voice is registering. Wheel of Fortune is the first card for this preserve, the pile of, with the card preserve or with the purple flowers, or that identifies with pine needles. Felt drawn to those. I I mean, pine needles are evergreen, so we'll read about that card here in a moment. But I can't remember how exactly I did this in the last time. I'm just gonna kind of go with what feels right to me now, which is we'll read the card meaning for preserve at the end of this reading. Wheel of Fortune upright is about vision, is about seeing things from a bigger perspective. You know, there's literally both characters. One character on the top of the card is just kind of looking up and out to the side, you know, kind of a dreamy look, I would say, even. And I think that's really interesting and, unique. There's always a point to me, like to the way that they're looking. And so I've seen interpretations of like if they're looking to the left, if they're looking to the right, and what that means. Because you're looking at the tarot cards, you know, as a singular card here in a reading, but as a reader, we know that we need to look at it in the context of the deck. So this is a card with the number 10, and the person on the bottom is looking up to the person on the top, and the person on the top is looking to the left, which means that they're looking at where they have come from. So I think that this card is such a loaded card, and it gets a lot of pretty succinct interpretation. So I kind of like to give it a little bit more room and space because we've got different astrological symbols going on here: Aquarius, the water bear, Scorpio, what the deep dark diver. I think one of these is Capricorn. I could be wrong even, and one is Taurus. So we have the fixed signs, is what I see. If I'm not mistaken, it's the fixed signs that we're seeing here. So, you know, it's this idea, and they're in the four corners here. So they offer stability, but also, you know, that person at the top looks awfully stable, but also in offering that stability, this person at the bottom kind of seems unsure about themselves, kind of like lacks confidence in what they're doing. And so that fixed approach to things can offer both of those. And so we have to understand that the wheel that they're on turns. That person who's at the top will someday be at the bottom, will feel like that, will you know, see things in that way, will feel uncertain about themselves. And what will they do with that? Will they be able to, you know, look to the top and remember that they'll be there again someday, and that it's not a comparison. It doesn't have to be a comparison, but it can be more of a like, I've been there before and I'll be there again, which is something that I has helped me a lot. I've been happy before and I'll be happy again, because growing up in America, I think it's very common. Maybe it's just me, but I felt like it was very common for people around me and for myself to grow up with this idea that you needed to be pretty constantly okay, like and that's a trauma personality thing. Like that's something, a dysfunction that's passed down to us, is that like, you know, it's the other side of the I'll give you something to cry about, like you're fine, like if I, because this is such a hard thing to talk about. Wow, I'm like kind of getting stumbly. So codependency is the idea that if I control something outside of myself, then I can control the thing within myself by ordering this thing, you know, controlling this thing. Applying more control to the thing on the outside will allow me to experience more control internally. We think that that's what's true because we tend to think that our the conflict going on internally is a result of something external. Like we have a tendency to think, and I'm not saying that things don't impact us. Like obviously we are creatures of the world, like we do get impacted by things, and that's normal. But at its base level, that is what codependency is. So is all codependency bad? I wouldn't say that codependency is the worst thing ever, but there are times when leaning on codependent relational strategies is not going to get us what we want. It's not going to help us get it closer to our goal. It's not going to help us get closer to people. It's not going to help us build connection. You know, it has its uses in providing security and all kinds of things in helping people survive difficult situations, which humans are continually put into by other human beings and other things, other forces. And so, it makes sense to me that, and we have a tendency that when we see the negative of something, that we identify wholly with just the negative of it, and we don't recognize that there is not nuance, but that there is uh, a guiding force behind that. And so, you know, and how much is consent and autonomy respected and agency respected within those kinds of relationships and those kinds of when those strategies are used, how does that impact an individual's ability to fully consent, to give informed, continuous consent whenever we think that I will not be okay until you are okay. And so it's very easy to want to control the things outside of you and to say, like, I'm not okay because I, the things around me are out of order, or, like, um, I need something. There's a need that I can't leave it unmet, overnight or whatever. Um, and it's not to say we shouldn't have to suffer, we shouldn't have to, endure, but to be able to endure discomfort, um, it's hard sometimes. And I think that's what this card is representing here, is that acceptance that a fixed perspective is incredibly stabilizing. It's in all four corners. It's incredibly stabilizing. However, being what is the word? Being static on a moving thing, you're gonna get knocked on your ass also. So it's just there comes a time when you have to adjust the way, to be able to embrace a new opportunity, a new way of thinking of things, a new relationship or whatever that you have, to be willing to think about how your beliefs could maybe change to make that more possible, to make them more enjoyable, to make it less stressful for you, because that's the thing, is taking a codependent approach can be incredibly stressful. Trying to create what stability or something like that on control so much on the outside, it takes us more out of our inner world. And quite often the thing that brings the most peace to my inner world personally, and this is my personal take on it, is what brings me the most peace is just shedding light on my internal world, is just being willing to say what's going on in there in a curious way.
Can you burn an incense?
Oh yeah.
Just making sure that's not.
It's done now.
Didn't know if I needed to start looking for a fire. Burned up electronic.
That's funny. Yep. Okay. But just being willing to be flexible, which is difficult when you're in a place like this down here. I'm pointing with the wrong finger because I'm looking at the camera trying to do it. But this right here, this figure down here who's had to shift it, this is a kind of vulnerable position to be in. You think about it, like they're on a spinning wheel, and this one person up here is here, and so they become static on a moving wheel. And so maybe we don't know how fast the wheel is moving, but it's moving, it's constantly moving. And this character thinks that they can sit pretty on this little, pedestal essentially they've made for themselves. And that's cool. Like, enjoy the view, have fun. That it's not about you should be anxious all the time. That's not it. You shouldn't. But just to remember that this is where you've come from and this is where you will probably go one more time in a new way. You won't always experience it the same way. Um, but you will. And so then when you see people that are, down on their luck or whatever you want to call it, then to remember that, you know, it's that turn of the wheel that gets you here. And that is to say that it's luck, wheel of fortune. It's the wheel of fortune. It's luck and it's privilege a lot of times that gets us up out of our space, and we get to enter into a new cycle, because a lot of people are not able to have access to a new cycle, or that new cycle is um, less resourced and less okay and less stable than it's been. I think yeah, I think that's a good place to start. The Ten of Cups has to do with family, which is whatever you mean by it. I personally love this card. It's two feminine presenting people standing under a rainbow with 10 cups in it, and there are two children there, just kind of playing in this little field. Let's go over this way here. There we go. And the cups is so the first card was Major Arcana, denoting that this is about a major philosophical shift, and that major philosophical shift is about how you see the pentacle of happiness, the pentacle of like having your cups filled, like emotional fulfillment. Like, what does that seem like to you? And then, like, how can you incorporate what it is? So maybe you decide that you want something different, like you're really unhappy with the things that you have right now, right? And so it's incredibly difficult to be grateful. Like, even if you're here in this top position and you're looking out, you're feeling much more pensive, much more, tense, much more um, judgmental, maybe even about, the situation that you're in. You don't like your job anymore. Let's go with that. Let's say you're unhappy with your job, but your job enables you to be able to move closer towards your family goals, your community, whatever feels like family to you, your chosen family goals. You're able to move closer to that. So it's like, how can you incorporate that gratitude into your story about yourself, essentially, so that whenever you get into this down part on this wheel, that the story you're telling yourself is still one immersed in that gratitude for how you don't have the best boss or whatever. You don't have the best benefits, you don't get the things that you want, yeah, all of your things that you want from your job, but you did find a job that significantly, increases your access to quality time with your family. You're home for dinner. You're able to get weekends off. It's easier to take off for a doctor's appointment, or if your child is sick from school or something like that. So perhaps you've seen an upgrade, but you're not quite happy because it's not exactly what you want to be. Because it's not the better job. It's not all of your, boxes being ticked. And I don't think it's unrealistic to say that deserve to have most of what you want in a job. It's just also, it's balanced, like with realism to some extent. But I think that realism can also just be pessimism. So, but where can you recognize that you've made choices, you've supported yourself in this last stretch of time that we're talking about? So maybe from winter and now into spring, you've been supporting yourself and moving towards your goals. Like, you're getting closer to what it is that you want, and you aren't there yet. And you may be constantly, you may forever, for the rest of your life, be moving towards it. Especially if you're like, I don't know what job I want. I just know that I am not happy where I'm at. Or I don't know how I see, things going beyond the next 5 years. But then after that, like I'm just kind of not sure. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to rest in that gratitude, I think, sometimes, and to just really feel that appreciation for what you can do and how to make the best of that time so that you're setting up yourself for success, whether that's like you want to work for yourself and that will give you the better working conditions that you're looking for. And so, like, what steps would you need to take to make that possible? um, and rather than thinking about the what is it, the constraints and criteria to like narrow down what is actually realistic, go from that unrealistic place. Like, why not me? If I want to become the next Hannah Montana or whatever, like, something silly and obscure, but like, say you want to become a drag queen, say you want to become a drag performer, and you're like, okay, but it feels really, oh my gosh, there's two foxes and they're so cute. I'm gonna take a picture. Well, I love foxes. Okay. They're just like little pups. I love this. Okay. But yeah, I think we're good to move on from that. Maybe I was trying to make a point and I forgot it. If I did, I'll come back in the comments when I watch back through the video. But yeah, you deserve to be like less stressed. Because thinking about constant improvement, I mean, thinking about how to make your life better all the time, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it can also be really stressful. And it can be the embodiment of perfectionism. It can be a way that we tell ourselves, like, oh, you should be, ashamed you're not able to do this, that, and the other. So at least you can do these small improvements. And so I think it's really important to think about how we talk to ourselves and understanding, yeah, that we're like, and congratulate ourselves for making moves that move us closer to our goals of how we want our life to look. Like, that's a thing for me. This Ten of Cups resonates for me. This whole reading resonates for me. But this Ten of Cups resonates for me because, like, I find it's really important to me to be able to have time off to spend with like community and family and my like partner. So like whoever, I am committed to. And um I find it really rewarding, even if I work 40 hours a week, if I can have more time off. So like this week I have 3 days off and somehow I'm still hitting 40 hours. um I don't really understand that math, but um and maybe it's wrong because I keep thinking it has to be wrong. But just being able to do that, and then like being a tipped worker and things like that, like those things make it easier to take time off. And then even like when I'm like, I'm too tired, like I have chronic illness stuff going on, or I just am tired because I'm sick or something else, then I have the ability to like take time off from both my hobby stuff and from that, and to feel like, okay, I can still get the things that I like want and need to make my life like keep going, and I can still give back to other people in my community, which is an important thing to me. Like that, living in my values, like this thing about community to me is that I can contribute because like I went through this period of reparenting myself. I'm not gonna go on this tangent for a sec, but I went on this tangent, this journey of reparenting myself because I grew up with a very uncaring parent and I needed to correct some things for myself to make myself feel fully loved and supported. And I could continually experience this really awful feeling of emptiness that and numbing out and things like that would come with it because of this deep grief, that I couldn't find a way to tend to it. And so I really had to look at the core human needs, and I studied about how important it is for a human. Like we place value on our needs, and probably when they go unmet, we probably place more value on them. I don't know. That's my theory, but just the idea that like for me, being able to contribute was something that was constantly downplayed, cut down, steamrolled over. Just it wasn't possible. My contributions weren't appreciated. It was a very, complex things, which gets into like people talk about attachment styles, and if that helps you make sense of your journey, I totally understand. I personally don't buy into like the attachment style thing because I feel like it leaves out a lot of context, but there are parts of it that have helped me also. And so like that idea that like what are my core fears, and hearing other people repeat that back to me, and I'm like, that is it, that's my core fear, is that my contributions will not be appreciated. And like I don't need to be validated a lot of times. Like I just need to be like, wow, and to not have a rebuttal. you know like that's been such a big thing for me and my family because of my being queer, being politically queer, being somebody who questions everything and things like that. Like I was constantly like corrected if I said my own opinion was like, no, that's not right, this is the right thing. And so like for me, just like the idea that there's not a rebuttal, like, even if I'm wrong, even if you think I'm wrong, even if you are judging me, just like suspending that judgment and sitting there with me anyways is literally the best thing sometimes. And like it's made it where it's very fulfilling to talk to strangers. So customer service has been really nice for me because I'm able to a lot of times get things that I don't get from people who are like, well, but I think you're wrong. And because I'm in a relationship with you, I think that I need to, point out that or correct it or, engage in it. And so, and I have been told that I debate too. And so I'm not trying to say that like being the person who debates people is wrong. But it's a tricky thing to navigate. And um yeah, anyways, that was my tangent that I wanted to go on, that like having to reparent myself and having to think about how I want to be able to contribute is one of the core needs that I need met in a relationship. So a lot of times the conflict that happens or the inner conflict that I experience is because I'm feeling judged. And so like obviously like I can withstand judgment. I can handle that. But what I need to know is that that judgment isn't going to come in between you protecting me. Because I think that's the biggest thing as a queer person, is that like my community are my I call them my elephants. They're the people who will circle up around me whenever somebody comes around looking to do something fucked up. You know, whenever the misogyny is coming around, when the abuse gets bad, like they're people who are going to circle up around me. And yeah, like that's just like an important thing to me. And that protection looks like multiple things because misogyny, ableism, all of the things, they come in many forms, in many ways, systemic, interpersonal, social, political ways. And so like that definition, I think, or that idea of that has changed so much because a lot of reasons. I depend more and more on community. I think the more disabled I get, the older I get, all those being all the same. These little foxes are still just hanging out here. They're literally so cute. I just want to watch them for a minute. Our third and final card, all upright. So these are just a bunch of like reflection points, if you ask me. Four of Pentacles. I love this outfit. It's so like simple, but I love it. Pointy zipper front boots, maybe some black leggings and a fishnet top and a freaking parka. upright, 4 of Pentacles, 4 of Coins. That one I might want to look up. Give me an idea here. I have a trouble sometimes. When it comes to the middle number. Minor Arcana, like the tens and stuff are easy for me, but for some reason 4 is that's harder. 4 Pentacles. Ooh. Possessiveness, blocked, change, and control, which we talked about, right? So, how much are you trying to control everything rather than coordinating collaboration to co-create something? I think that's the thing is that like it's okay to try to say my friend is homeless and I'm not going to let that happen. My friend is becoming homeless or something and I'm not going to let that happen. Totally fine to want to take control of the situation. What's not okay is to take control of them and their choices. What's not okay is to take control of the financial backing, any of that stuff. Like, oh, there go the foxes. They're fine. Oh, there came a bird. Uh-oh. Little bird, watch out. Oy, I'm scared right now. Is that a bird? Yeah, it's a bird. I'll report back. Okay. Yeah, just so like again, all of those feed into the same blocked change, possessiveness, and control, all in the same for this 4 of Coins. So that being, how can you share this thing? How can it become a social project that you say, we cannot let my friend become homeless. We cannot let my friend go without food. How can we take that further and bring more people into that? And I'm literally questioning myself about this. So this is not coming from a like holier than thou position. This is coming from I'm questioning myself about this exact same thing. So I make zines with my friends and we sell those zines at pop-up shops, but we have got to step up our game because I need to get it placed in shops in different places around the wherever the fuck people want to sell this shit, because and that's really hard for me. I get really I'm really good at the big picture stuff because of Sagittarius rising in my chart, but I really suck sometimes when it comes to the little detailed stuff, which is crazy because I'm a Virgo sun, but that doesn't that affects how some other parts, but not everything. Like I wish it was my fucking moon or something, but anyways. I wish wishes and fishes, or horse flies and some, I don't know, there's a saying about that, but anyways. So a crazy saying also. But yeah, so how can we share this thing, this goal that we have, this thing that we want to do, this thing that we want to change, this way that we want to bring about change, is, and I think that's an important thing, is that we recognize that homelessness is a societal failure. It is not the failure of that one person to be able to succeed in a system. It is literally the failure of the system to be able to allow everyone to succeed, because quite literally we live in a system that manufactures the conditions for us and says that there's certain people need to fail and fall and be left out, and that is to incentivize our working harder. And it works really well when you threaten us with poverty and then run politicians who refuse to do anything but slightly curtail poverty, and it's put a band-aid on maybe a few of its downsides or something. But in the reality, that every judge in the fucking nation would decide against you because you're poor. That every arresting agent in the nation would trump up more charges because they know that you don't have the money to fight them. They know that you'll take a plea deal because they know that you don't have the money to get a good lawyer to fight them. Like these are all things that happen to people in poverty at rapid rates because poverty is it's not a flaw. It is a design implement into the system. It is a key function of capitalism that there are people in poverty, in such deep poverty, that we would have to we would have to, somebody's done the math on it, but we'd have to produce a lot more in order to meet all those needs for all of those people. And it's like literally, it's not impossible, but it's just that that production has to be done at a level at which we don't own the means of production, which is what people talk about, and I'm not going to say much more than that. I'll get my YouTube video flagged even more, but I imagine it's probably not showing up anywhere anyways. I said Palestine last time, and I'm not scared to say it again. So it's just it's one of those things. Yeah, let's look at that card. Meaning for preserve or pine needles. And this is from Hedwich's Field Guide by, I think it's Shalva Thompson. I can show the side of the box. It's probably the easiest part. But yeah, it comes in a cute little box like this. The cards. There it goes. The cards go in there. Oh, there's some in there. And then the book goes on top. I love boxes like this, honestly. And I like this kit a lot. That preserve pine is a little fun to try to learn it because the word that's biggest on this card says preserve down there, and then in the book you have to look by the name of the plant, which is on the card, but pine, Scots pine, Auriga pine, Norway pine, Pinus sylvestris. There are hundreds of varieties of pine, and every temperate region has their own. This one is going to focus mostly on Scots pine, which is common throughout the Northern Hemisphere. This person is in the Pacific Northwest, I believe. Northern Hemisphere, and also is the national tree of Scotland. Subtle variations of this lovely tree are found in the Americas as well as across Russia, the Balkans, and northwest China. Pine is an important timber crop used for both wood and pulp. The pine and other varieties can be used for making tar, rosin, and turpentine. Pine oil is fragrant and antiseptic and is used in soaps, creams, and detergents. The oracle property. Okay, here we go. Pine also. That's it. How to use pine syrup. Yeah, I give us a recipe. The oracle property preserve speaks to the pine's antiseptic uses and its ability to help conserve, store, and maintain objects and buildings. In an oracular setting, in an oracle setting, this property speaks to holding on rather than letting go. In times of doubt or difficulty, we are often inclined to run away or let things collapse rather than go through the pain or hassle of repair. Even relationships, friendships, or jobs that are destined to end can be respectfully and compassionately brought to a close to preserve the underlying value of what they were, allowing you to move forward in the best way possible. While there are certainly times when one must simply walk away, there are other situations where preserving something is worth the work. Interesting. I have my Moonlit Night D&D dice here that I'm going to use for a roll. These are a purple colored, probably resin casted with gold leaf, numbers, letters, symbols, whatever you would call them. So let's see what number we get, and we'll give you your last message for your deck, your pile, your card, whatever you would call this, your reading. 7. Seven is associated with the Chariot, victory due to willpower, integrating the dark and the light, the shadow and the light. Discipline, healthy ego, strong and self assured strategizer, firm and direct, strong will, confidence. Spirituality, wisdom, retreat, inner growth, integration, exploration, reflection, assessment. Willpower, determination. I think that's all. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, you may want to subscribe to my channel. I'm not always able to plan out my lives and to tell everybody when I'm going live. So that's the best way to know when you will see me. If you want to see me live, if you want to even watch this recorded, you will then get a notification that I have gone live and you'll know that you can come back and watch that video. I like to do that a lot myself. I'm going to clear the table. Welcome back. This is the fourth and final pile of the spring 2026 pick a card messages. This is the card Elder with the Oracle of Ritual. Those are elderberries. Okay, now you can kind of see it. And this is the Celestite stone. You may have been drawn to that also. It's probably a geode. It's got concrete looking stuff on the bottom, which could be grown, lab grown, which where I got it was a exposition, so it's very possible. I'm not going to do that again, but because I'm not proud of how it what happened, but I'm not going to hide it either. You know, I think it's important to admit our mistakes, sometimes even publicly, because like being human is just that. It's just human, and like the more that we expand on like what we're allowed to be, like we should be able to be publicly human. So I think it's so interesting that like we hide away from our mistakes and stuff, and like we're like, oh no, maybe I won't talk about it unless I get pushed into a corner, and then of course you're not going to feel really great. Hi, welcome in. So the card that we're on now is Ritual for the elderberry, and we'll read the card meaning and interpretation from the book at the very end of this part. We'll just start with tarot. The Hermit is the card. This is a person literally closing their laptop there. My finger's right close to it, but they're closing their laptop there and they're kind of hiding away, maybe just resting. This card really represents introversion, which is to say reflection, inner, tending to that inner dialogue, kind of spending time with yourself for the sake of restoring in some way. And so that's why this person is saying, I've got to take time away from my laptop. I've got to take time to shut out the world outside. Their windows there. So they're able to see outside, but they're not outside. They're inside somewhere. And this is a major arcana card. So this is about a philosophical shift about what it means to take time away from the world. Do you have is there a difficulty with being able to step away from the laptop, being able to step away from technology, to whatever extent that is that you have it? Because sometimes it's just our TV. We play a lot of games, or we do a lot of streaming, or we do a lot of things centered around our television. So it may not be a laptop. Is it your phone? Is it your whatever device that you find yourself centering yourself around? Is it really hard to pull yourself away from that? And what would it be like to be able to step away from it in a way that's, yours doesn't have to be hiding in a dark room. This is to convey that message, but you don't have to take on that same method of addressing that need or experimenting with that process. So, ooh, the Chariot reversed. This is about defining discipline for yourself, and practicing that self-discipline in whatever way. And I think I really like the word self-devotion more than discipline, because like how can you, I think one kind of requires the other, really. Like if you are disciplining yourself without devotion, then how can you be sure that that discipline is you wanting what's best for yourself? So how do you define taking care of yourself? what is it you're trying to better yourself for? Is it for some external accomplishment? And if it is, then also what does that give you internally? What does that give you inside? Because these are two major arcana cards, so we're dealing with big philosophical shifts um, that are saying something about how you deal with the world, and possibly about how you struggle with leading yourself from a place like that. Maybe you're always ready to move forward on ideas, but you need someone else with you, or you're ready to move forward on ideas but they can't be your ideas. And I've definitely been like that before. So this is coming from a place of reflecting on my own. But yeah, just like, this is somebody, like the Chariot is somebody who's very sure, and so the Chariot reversed is somebody who's maybe lost that assuredness, and they're trying to go forward, so maybe impulsive, or they're pushing, or they're just getting by at this point. But they know that something is missing. They know that it's not going to go as far as they'd like to, or something just feels off. This is a very fast reading. Chariot. 7 and 9. So we're kind of going backwards also in the major arcana. So this is about, taking a deep look internally in this time. If you're stepping away from things for a moment, maybe making a few less plans, doing a little bit more napping, or, more streaming on your TV. I don't know. Put the laptop and the work stuff away, the phone maybe down, and just watching TV. Like sometimes that's what I need. Or to play a video game on a handheld device versus, playing it on your computer. Like, just changing up the way that you're doing things. Because it seems like by making these shifts, you may unearth more of like what needs your reflection. Because the Chariot, did I ever hold it up even? The Chariot, right side up can go, but this Chariot is not going anywhere. And some people take it very literally. Like that car, that vehicle, well, this is a motorcycle right now, can't go. The driver won't be on it anymore, and the sphinxes will fly off. It would just be unruly and not as capable as it is when it's up this way. Then again, they look like they have, oh, that's like a metal piece, maybe. They look like they have a flat tire, maybe. So I don't know. But yeah, it was this upside down. Let's try the next one. Oof. The Devil reverse. So maybe this, like, being so involved in the external world is about trying to stay away from things that have kept you codependent or chained in the past, relationships, or substances, or just lifestyle choices. Like maybe you're a person who overworks a lot. I've been that person myself a lot, like with my creative endeavors. So in your reflection, have you become dependent on being over available, over social, over involved and overstimulated in a way that's not truly filling your cup? So, maybe that's a lack of connection, maybe that's a lack of sleep, maybe that's, whatever that is, that's your the way that you're expending yourself. Has it just led you back to some other, replacement? And sometimes that's how it works when you're self-treating also, like, that's or just not even, but ending back up where you have been in another situation, it's just something to reflect on and to see that, like, these people, this is the devil card, and they're free. So this card, reversed is a good thing. It's that you're able to trust yourself to navigate these situations, and perhaps this chariot reverse is saying you're not trusting yourself in navigating these situations. You're leaning far too much on what somebody else is telling you should or shouldn't be, should or shouldn't happen, how your relationship should be, how this is a trauma thing, and so therefore that makes the relationship, unhealthy or toxic or something. And I'm not saying that that's not sometimes true, but there's a lot of people that, do a lot to make content on stuff and don't even realize that they probably wreak havoc. I've heard from a lot of people that, like, they just get a lot of advice and a lot of information and then they try to apply it. And I think it's okay to experiment with things sometimes, but also with the idea that they may not be as truthful or factual or helpful as the people who post them, make them out to be, because their key thing is to just get you to engage with their post. They don't really care if it, um, they're not checking in with you down the way. They're just giving out some information, and they don't often even give a disclaimer that that you should think about how all deeper than what that they're not the boss of your life. um I think some people don't mind being the boss of other people's lives either. And that's what I see here, is that somebody who is already fully capable of trusting themselves from getting free from, toxic relationships, bad connections that don't help you, you know. And that's kind of a vague thing to say, but just like something that by being in that relationship, you're struggling to meet one of your core needs, or, a need that, um, when not met, is really impacting you. And trying to follow other people's lead, you're also, turning away from yourself. And that might make it harder to get free when you need to, if you're leaning on other people to guide you in a way that's not co-created. When they're together, you know? If they're steering back here, So just, yeah. Oh, very reflective reading. All of these are major arcana, but you're not going to be able to shift the big philosophical stuff without a practice. So it may take, a what is it called? A dark night of the soul or whatever. It might take experience of um doing this hermiting, whatever that is to you, spending time in your bedroom with Netflix or pardon me, with Netflix or whatever. But also, how are you going to form a daily practice around that? And I'm guessing that's what this ritual card is going to talk to us about a little bit. And that was Elder. The elder tree has a long history of use for medicinal and culinary purposes, but its hollow stems are also used to create wind instruments, pipes, and even pop guns and whistles. Many superstitions swirl around this tree, and it is mentioned in many early texts on magic and witchcraft. Each elder tree is believed to hold a feminine guardian spirit known as the elder tree mother or Hildmore. Well, I don't know about that. I wish they would say one should not cut down. Well, that okay. I'm okay with this. There we go. One should not cut down the tree or take her branches without making an offering or asking for permission. I think you should do that with every plant. This is interesting. The Oracle property ritual is inspired by the countless ancient traditions and rituals surrounding this tree. There are records of using an elder branch in wedding ceremonies to bind two people, rituals for seeing and communicating with the Fae, and rituals for the planting, harvesting, and use of the tree itself. Rituals are an important part of community building and daily life structure, enormously helpful to those who aspire to lead thoughtful and productive lives. Think about ways personal rituals can enrich your life, whether they take the form of journaling, exercise, sacred ceremony, or something as simple as making a daily list of what you would like to accomplish. Rituals can strengthen relationships, ease tension, and provide structure in this busy and often hectic world. Mm. So, what if you made time with yourself away from your electronics a sacred space? You know, what sacred ceremonies might you invent or bring into that time so that you recognize that relationship with yourself, taking time with yourself is a sacred duty and responsibility to yourself. And I say that in my descriptions here, you know, like thank you for coming here and pouring into your cup and for making space for yourself. That's something I like to say a lot is like you making space for yourself in this way is an important thing in a world where it is, you know, our shrinking is encouraged. Some more than others. I think that's an important thing to always remember. Some more than others disproportionately impacts people who are already more oppressed and marginalized. Whenever things flare up, like right now, I notice that misogyny is emboldened in a lot of people. If they've internalized misogyny, they're wondering why you're not as compliant with it as you once were. And things like that. I see that a lot. Not just with myself, but with everybody around me too. I think that's interesting. You got the number 5. I already know that represents change. Oh, it got dark. 21:59. I guess it is. I don't know where this is watching. I have to look after I finish this part. Five. The Hierophant. Interpreter for culture. How we learn through relationship, through structured groups with rules and assigned roles. What we feel pressed to rebel from or conform to. And or conform to. Stress, change, expansion, conflict, impulsivity, chaos, freedom, flexibility, adaptability, sensuality, self indulgence, the resolution, temperance. Wisdom, beliefs. Thank you for making time for yourself today. Putting that time and attention on yourself means that you are telling yourself that you are valuable. And that's one step towards what you're reading here, was suggesting that you become self-led and that you become confident in your ability to lead yourself out of any situation, I think these, and anyone you're with. And that you'll probably feel that fear, but you can do it anyways. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I'll be posting new live videos as often as every 2 weeks, trying to match up with the moon cycles. Not always there, but I'm realizing I will not do a pick a card with 4 cards on a live again. It was just too many cards, so my max is going to be maybe 2 or 3. Thank you for joining me.